Welcome back to another episode of the History of Fan Anime. I'm your host, Chow. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about our favorite video games across different consoles and any special memories that we have about these different consoles when we owned them. And again, this started from a conversation I had at work, and we just started talking about how we grew up with video games and what video games were really significant to us over all the different consoles that we had. So I'm going to go through my sort of history of video games and consoles and that kind of stuff, and some stories about them, and and then basically, if you like, you can put your stories about these various different games. Do you agree with some of the games that are on the list? Do you also have a similar story? Put that in the comments below, and that'd be great. Before we begin, don't forget to go down below, click and click subscribe. But about 60% of you are already subscribed, and I really appreciate that. And again, hopefully the rest of you, I hope I've earned your subscription, and you go hit that red button, subscribe, and also maybe click that notification bell, because obviously YouTube is starting to get better on recommending my videos now. But for the mass majority, you won't know when I release videos until you get that notification ring. All right. I'm going to pull up the list of popular video games, and I'm going to sort of go through them, as well as add my own stories and my own games as well. So you do that in the comments below for that too. All right. So without further delay, let's begin. Okay, so the next system that I picked up after the TurboGrafx is basically the first of the actual 16-bit processing machines, the PlayStation 1. Okay, so a lot was anticipated on this one. Again, this is one of these first premier systems that was one of the very first ones that I wanted to buy right away. And again, this is at a time where when they first released the thing, they didn't have a lot of things available. But when the games that we had, we sure played the heck out of them, right? And so one of the first games that I remember they put for the system was Ridge Racer. Now, again, I wasn't much of a car racing guy. I didn't really care so much about it. None of that said, I'm not very good at them either. But I did play a lot about that. But the thing that really got me about Ridge Racer was the music, right? And I said I was so enthralled about the music and that kind of stuff. It didn't have a way that you can extract the music the same way that you did on the TurboGrafx. But I actually went out and actually bought the soundtrack for Ridge Racer, and that one was not part of the any sets or anything like that. But so I ended up finding the catalog number from an ordering magazine, and actually ordered the soundtrack in for that particular thing, because as I said, I just liked the music on that so much. Another one of the original starter games for the PlayStation when they first came out was the first sort of fighting, 3D fighting game, which was Battle Area Toshinden. And again, in the era of we on the Super Nintendo, we played like Street Fighter, and on the Sega Genesis we played all the Mortal Kombats and that kind of stuff. They're all basically flat on 2D fighting games, right? Where finally, when the PlayStation came, they decided they've introduced the extra dimension, the ability to rotate around the fighting surface, right? And so even though that the polygons are really, really rough and everything on this, we still played the heck out of it. I said my favorite character on it was Ellis, and how she keeps doing the rising uppercut that she does, and then her flying attack and all this other stuff. So it's really kind of cool. It kind of reminds me of the cleric in Guardian Heroes, right? But again, really like playing this, and again, this will lead onwards to future development of these kind of fighting games. The next game that I spent quite a lot of time playing was Ace Combat, okay, or Aero Combat as we got it, and I really like this game because one of the most popular things that we had back in the 80s was of course Top Gun, and that always it was very popular with everyone, right? What that movie had, and so to do that kind of thing, and have all those different kind of missions and that kind of stuff, plus the ability to to just play really strange scenarios and that kind of stuff. Was always fun, and it's, even back in the days of the Apple too. I've always like goofing around with like the Microsoft Flight Sim, and so to have the ability to have that sort of more fast paced game was always a big thing for me. So even though some of those the things that we had to do, and the fact the playing in modes where you had like an infinite amount of missiles and that kind of stuff, that made it sound more unrealistic. But still, I found it was like a really great game to play. Another game I spent a lot of time playing was IQ, and again, just coming off the string of games of playing like puzzle type games. Right? I started with like completing all of like columns on the Sega Genesis, and then when the TurboGrafx came out, that I really got interested in the game Clax, right? And so when I saw the game IQ, I said, this in many ways is like Clax, right? Except instead of trying to organize the dropping of the actual cubes and centers, you're actually running around trying to eliminate them. So that's the first thing that I really got interested in doing this. And again, I don't remember if I actually finished all 8 levels of this thing, but I came really close. And I was playing this game, so I said that. So I did spend quite a bit of time trying to get around to do this. And the neat thing about this is that some days I get so locked in, I go into this sort of, I'm just so concentrating and so locked into playing the game. Sometimes it is just sometimes it's very effortlessly. I'm doing the various different levels, and sometimes when I look up and I realize, well, I've actually progressed pretty far in this game, and or in this particular level. Sometimes, right? It's just without even thinking about it, right? And sometimes it's better than when I actually try to casually play it, in many different ways. So, again, I play, like I said, I played a lot of this particular one when this first thing came out. The next game I spent just hours upon hours playing was Panzerfront. Now at this time, I remember in the arcades, the tank games were really a big thing. Like I remember like Tokyo Battle was a really good multiplayer arcade game, and so I was always looking for some kind of like that for a game console. And of course, Panzerfront was the first one that sort of really suit that bill. Here you are, you have to drive around in these tanks and that kind of stuff. And I remember I picked the theoretical kind of Abrams type tank where all the armor's in the front. And I remember playing some of the levels are really tricky because the enemy can be just so precise sometimes, hitting you on the side and that kind of stuff. And even with all the protective armor in the front, you still get that really rare chance of actually getting hit and penetrated at the front. And but I remember I was playing the game, and about halfway through the missions and that kind of stuff, I remember it was near the end. I remember it was the campaign towards Germany, and I accidentally figured out kind of again, I guess you can say a little cheat. And what it is that I found out that because I guess the way the game works and whatnot, and it's should I say its detection of obstacles and whatnot, is that the enemy can't fire past Hulk, burnt out Hulk. So basically, what had happened is that I think the mission was that there's a allied tank column, and you're one of the tanks in it, right? And so the AI goes through and plays the allied tanks while you drive your own. And I guess one of my the lead tanks got hit. And so what I did is I followed up behind it and hid behind the burning tank, right? And then I realized that the enemy who's in front of me could not shoot me through the burnt out tank that's sitting in front of me, but I could shoot, you know, through the burning tank at them. So I just realized that, hey, I can use these guys as a shield. And it just happens that the tank I was using is strong enough or has enough power to push these burnt out tanks or whatever it is, or jeeps sometimes I think it was, around the battlefield in front of me as an extra shield. So and it worked surprisingly well, because even, for example, the most common problem that I always had was that, I poke my nose out too far, and then someone shoots me from from my left side or from my right side, right where my armor's the weakest. But because I'm pushing the shield around, sometimes I get advanced notice of things shooting me from the side because they're shooting the burnt out tank that's in front of me, right? So, I remember once I figured that out, I realized that the rest of I guess it was like, it's like the last five so plus missions or whatever. It became much easier, and I think one of them was I remember was the mission that we basically had to go across the Rhine River, across this bridge, and of course everything on the German side was focused on pounding you as soon as you came across the bridge. But then I realized, hey, all I have to do is get the burnt out tank, in front of me, and then just basically push this tank across the bridge. And then as this, as things shoot at me, and hitting this, burnt out tank, I can reach over and I can pin them one by one as I go over this bridge. So it made that mission really quite simple. Anyway, so they made this. So I had a lot of fun playing this one when on the PlayStation 1, and I know that when they released the next version for the PlayStation 2, which is Panzer Front Zwei. I mainly got that one. So that was, again, one of these fun tank games I just love getting into. Hope you all had kind of fun and a little blast from the past. And don't forget, I'll be doing more kind of episodes where I bring out some pictures and more merchandise and collectible stuff from that past era. Okay, so until next time, see you again.